Hello, I'm Daria Onyshchenko and you're watching Time of Readiness, and I'm very glad to welcome today our guest, Alexіс Елліот, CEO and founder of Doshka Foundation, volunteer organization dealing with supplying medical supplies, also co-founder and CEO of Platforma, a volunteer organization, which we'll also talk about. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Alex, you're coming from France. How long are you already in Ukraine, and how happens that now during the war you're actually living in Ukraine, working here, helping our army, helping Ukrainian people, believing so much and doing so much for our victory? What was your motivation to come to Ukraine?
Well, the motivation was quite simple, I guess, as it can be described as political motivation. I studied history, international relations, diplomacy, so I'm interested in this. And when the war started, I understood that it was a historical moment, and that it was not just not the same conflict that was occurring in Ukraine since 2014, but not just any conflict. It was actually like game-changing event, and I felt immediately the need to read, of course, a lot about the events in the newspaper, to watch the news. And after a few weeks, I decided that I wanted to come here, mostly because I was impressed by the courage and the resistance of the Ukrainians, especially here in Kyiv. And I wanted to basically to meet those people. So I arrived here in May 22. A week after I got here, I met a girl that became my wife. So quite immediately, I got embedded. I stayed in Kyiv a month and a half, and then I came back to Paris for a month to empty my apartment and pack a bigger suitcase. And I came back here, and I'm here in Kyiv since then, summer 22.
And how did your family and your friends react to this? Did you know when you were coming what are you going to do here during the war?
No, I wanted to volunteer. So when I got here, I was real estate agent in Paris in the morning, and in the afternoon I had another job working real estate for a startup. So when I arrived here, obviously I left the job in the real estate as a real estate agent, but I kept the job in the startup because I could work remotely. I didn't tell anyone. I just arrived here with a backpack, and when I arrived here, I just told my colleagues that I needed a few days to land in Kyiv to find an internet connection, etc. And they asked me why. I say, well, I'm in Kyiv in Ukraine, so now I will be working remotely from Kyiv. They were a bit surprised. And then I actually told my family during the summer when I got back there.
And was it your first time going to Ukraine?
Yeah. And I didn't know much about Ukraine before, to be honest.
Incredible.
I'm not really proud of this, but I didn't know much.
So now after these 3 years of war, you have a family here? You have a small child?
Yes, I have a 6-month-old baby. I have a wife. So I run this charity organization that I created, and I created 2 other companies. One is an online store to help Ukrainians to export product from Ukraine to Europe. And to make them, to promote them. And the other one is the one you mentioned, Platforma, that is a startup. We call it mission-driven startup, but it's a startup. It's solutions for volunteers.
Tell us more about Platforma, about this volunteering.
Well, it actually started with Doshka. So Doshka is, it started, I immediately understood that I needed to create my own charity organization, both because of my personality and because it sounded not that complicated to create my own project. I was very wrong about this. It was very complicated, paperwork-wise. But the actual idea was that I realized that the medical supplies, the medical procurement, logistics, etc., was not very efficient among the volunteer organization I knew, and that even doctors, combat medic, very often did not really themselves identify the companies, the suppliers, all the chain, how it worked, and it was very disorganized and very difficult to manage. So I decided to do this, to do medical supplies, because it was chaos and I wanted to fix this. So we are focusing for 2 years now on this, sourcing medical supplies, buying them, collecting them, storing them, shipping them from the UK, France, Germany, Sweden, and distribute them here on the front line to the army, to combat medic, and as well to hospitals, clinics, and unfortunately for a few months now to rehabilitation centers and nursing homes even. Well, we find places for the stuff we got. And so 10% is our supplies we buy, and 90% are supplies that we collect abroad, mostly in the UK. So this is Doshka, normal, completely traditional charity organization in Ukraine, based on volunteers and a lot of time, a lot of crowdfunding on Twitter, on Instagram. It's very basic. However, after a while, I understood that we were not very efficient, us, small volunteer organization, but not because we were not good at what we were doing, but we were lacking of tools and tools, management tools, and a lot of things that we do, fundraising, crowdfunding, is online, which is magical when you think about it, because we make messages on Twitter, on Instagram, and we have people all over the world who send $5 and $10, and with this we buy ambulances. So this is good, but for the rest of the work, for everything else, documentation management, communication with combat medic, logistics, organization, reporting, analytics, everything, we didn't have anything. So I started to work with spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets, with my doctors, with combat medic on the front line, but it was obviously not the perfect solution. Also, doctors are not very good at spreadsheet. I found out about that. So almost immediately, I have a startup background, a tech background. So almost immediately, I understood we needed an app, very simple at the beginning, just to talk to combat medic. So I can show them what I have, the medical supplies that I have here in Kyiv in my storage unit, and they can see it, and they can request these supplies directly, and we don't need to talk, because this is actually the problem. A combat medic doesn't have much time to talk to volunteers, to organizations, to donors, etc. And I'm not a doctor. So when they ask me things, I need to do some research, I need to ask around, I need to go on tabletki to pharmacy.
And it costs you time.
Well, it costs time, it's not efficient. So this is the project. Since then, in 18 months now, it became actually a much bigger project, because we are actually trying to make of it a real productivity management software, not only for small volunteers, small organization, but also to bigger organization, but recipients, for example, hospitals, rehabilitation center, and later orphanages, any structure in Ukraine that actually had needs in terms of humanitarian aid. We are building this app for them, and also to offer a solution so the donors in Europe or in the US, donors of money or donors of equipment, can actually follow the goods and track the goods and see where it goes with reports, analytics, and pictures. Because as you know, we are running after resources, we are running after money for 3 years now. We try to maintain attention, to keep people supporting, involved, etc. So we need to step up, to do better, and with that kind of tools, with that kind of app, we can actually provide.
So actually, Platforma is coordinating all steps of volunteering. For each player can find where to send his help, which partners to work with, yes, and.
Let's put it this way. First, it has two ambitions. The first is to be more efficient in our work, so to save time, to save money, to save brain juice. Mm-hmm. The second ambition is to bring more transparency, to show to the people what we do with their money, from $20 to $2,000 and later maybe more. We want to show where the money is going. There's no need to say that in Ukraine it's important. I mean, I think it's important to raise a bit the standards of this, transparency, accountability, and also because it's easy actually.
And that this application already exists so that our people watching us can join it?
In a few weeks. We're releasing in a few weeks. We are almost, almost there. So those are the two ambitions. Now, if you want to understand how it works, it's very simple. You have 4 categories of users in what we do, like 4 categories of stakeholders. We have recipients, people who receive humanitarian aid. We have us, volunteer, nonprofit. We have donors. And we have suppliers, like brands or distributors of medical equipment, humanitarian aid, etc., like stores, company. The idea is very simple. Instead of having me receiving messages or requests from a combat medic or a hospital by texting, by text messages, they can actually communicate to me their needs as humanitarian organization. They can communicate with me their needs. I can show those needs to the donors, like explicitly. I can show what people ask me. This is for the basic part. The suppliers, the 4th stakeholder, comes in as very often we need to buy things and we want to show where we buy them. And that's why it has an aspect of a marketplace where local pharmacies can actually offer, suggest, display products online that I can buy with the money of the donors to this specific pharmacy and send it to this specific combat medic, for example. So the 4 stakeholders have actually an interest in this. For the recipients, it's easier and obviously more efficient. For me, it's actually better because I have an actual tool. For donors, it's perfect because they see where the money is going to who and how. And for the local pharmacy, it's not that bad because actually they are already in the game. We're already buying from them. But with this, they can actually do some promotion of their products, and it's not bad marketing for them. And also it's easy for them because they can display the product, we place an order, and everybody's happy. So yeah, this is...
In these 3 years of war, at the beginning you have witnessed this huge readiness of everyone to help, yes? It was all over through Europe. People were ready to donate, to help, to volunteer, and also in Ukraine. In your opinion, what is the situation now? What is the readiness among your partners in Europe now? But also in Ukraine, people volunteering, helping. Did the situation change a lot?
Yes, it changed a lot, and it's very different. In Europe, obviously, for obvious reasons, the situation in Europe is different. In Europe, it's more about maintaining, as I said, interest. We need to keep people interested, supporting Ukraine. And unfortunately, we need to keep them supporting Ukraine even when nothing no tragic events are happening. Because what's happening is that every time there is huge strikes here on Kyiv, for example, a lot of people die. This is how Ukraine is on the news again, and that there's more interest. And as soon as the situation got a bit quiet, not that much. This is for people, but it's the same. It's the same. Like we need to do. We do the same with like politicals, for example, of influencers or like journalists, reporters, because we talk to them and we try to keep them interested. Our donors, to be honest, our like loyal and regular donors, to be very honest, from France at least, or from Germany, UK, the most country donating to us, they are kind of still very supportive, very loyal. It's not that many. It's not many people we're talking about, but they're here. Then there's the non-profit in Europe that we are working with for 2 years and a half, in the UK, in France, Netherlands, Sweden, etc. Honestly, all of those guys are good. It's good people, but themselves they are getting tired too. they are facing challenges in human resources, in staffing, and looking for volunteers as well. It's not that easy, to keep people like motivated after 3 years. And they tend to not to do less, but they tend to keep a minimum activity, to reduce their activity a bit to what they do, like to the things they do the best. For example, they tend to not be a bit less willing to cooperate with each other because they think it's like, they don't have bandwidth for this, which I understand and which makes sense. But this is what is complicated because I'm not that kind of person. I want all the people to work together, Actually, if you go to our social media, you will see that very often we promote other charity organizations, like other volunteers, because I think that's the only one way this works. If the small guys work together and coordinate and build synergies, etc., I don't really think that 1,000 small volunteer organizations can do great things if they don't work together.
Many people abroad now ask me that Ukraine is getting so much help on official governmental level from European countries, from US. Why still so much depends on small volunteers? Like people buying one drone ask me doesn't make sense. Why such big foundations like Pritula who actually send thousands of drones? Does it still make sense? But many brigades, many soldiers really ask for very single stuff.
Yes. Well, first, people like Serhi Pritula are doing an amazing job and are honestly, actually, they should be more acknowledged and more promoted and abroad because here they are superstars, but not so many people know them abroad, which is a shame. But they are doing a good job and they are good at promoting their job and market it, etc. But Serhi cannot do the job of an entire government. He cannot do the job of the Minister of Defense, So as impressive as it is for volunteers, it's still compared to what the war effort requires. Unfortunately it's still modest. And those are people I know, like Razom, for example. They're doing an amazing job, but even with a lot of money, there's still a limit to what they can do, The front line is long. The needs are endless. An IFAC costs $150. The guy needs a new one like every 2-3 months. So just do the math. The drones. There's no need to talk about the drones. Ukraine is producing now millions of drones. It's still not enough. It's not enough to fuel the war efforts.
It means still every help and every euro is important, and at the end it doesn't.
Well, to be honest, you asked me a few minutes ago, why do we build things like Platforma? We build them because it's important to change the way we do things, to have a different methodology, organization, another way to save actually resources, to save time, to save money, to save energy, because as we said, because you asked me about people in Europe, but people here in Kyiv are like in Kyiv. I live in Kyiv, or obviously in Ukraine, and Kyiv is probably not the most exhausted city, but people are tired. They're tired, they do not see the end of the war. For many reasons, people even here tend to lose interest or to see the front line as very far. That's how it is. That's reality. And the war tomorrow would be in France or in Spain or so. It would probably be the same. People tend to demobilize. So even here, it's an actual effort to keep people, doing things, helping, even like caring, to be honest. But this is why we do not sleep much. We do not have much money, we do not have much time, and we do not have much human resources. So we need to be smarter. From the bottom, like up all the system. The army, the Ukrainian army, when they destroy air bases, airports, factories in Russia. This is it. This is it. We need to do smarter because we have less, and that's good. That's good. That's good thinking. You know, to save resources, to try to use them as smartly as possible. So, yes, I think a huge part of the job is to do better with less resources, but to learn to do it. Even to train people. And I know for a fact that here in Ukraine, culturally speaking, it's not that much in the culture, you know, because I run a business, I talk to business owners, so I see things. And I know that here it's not that obvious that you can do better with less. And yet I think first, yes, it's possible, and then we should. Let's take an example. Cars. People like me, like volunteers, thousands of volunteers here in Ukraine, for I know Ukraine, it doesn't matter, on a weekly basis, still keep fundraising for cars, keep fundraising, like keep importing them. I buy ambulances in the UK and cars every week. Like a few minutes ago, and a volunteer was texting me for me to make the paperwork for the new ambulances we are. Hundreds of cars are still traveling to Ukraine on a monthly basis. Half of them will break down in the next 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks because they are old cars because of the war. Because how is that possible that in 3 years of war we still have like such a non-system? There is still like to fix the cars, for example. Why there's not a national workshop in Ukraine? I don't know, in 2 or 3 cities. Where we could fix our cars, we would have enough stocks of parts, for example.
Do you think it's a problem with the government, of coordination between government and those?
Look, I'm not Ukrainian. It's not for me to say that.
But how comfortable do you feel as volunteers?
Well, I don't feel comfortable. How could I feel comfortable? A tourniquet costs $24 when you buy it in America to the company. Mm-hmm. The company is named North American Rescue. They're actually pretty nice people. It costs $24. The first year of the war used to cost between $40 and $50. It was the first year of the war, you can say, etc. The truth is, the first month of the war, authorities should have called North American Rescue and buy 1 million tourniquets. And at the time, they probably wouldn't have paid for those tourniquets themselves. They probably should have told the American government, buy for us and send us 1 million tourniquets. We are 3 years after the war. We are 3 years into the war. It's still small guys like me or like us, like volunteers, will keep fundraising and buying $24 tourniquet in the U.S. and having it transported with suitcases here in Ukraine, 100 by 100 every month, or 500, or etc. It's really, when you think about it, a tourniquet is that big.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that we're still in
No, I mean, if you want a good example of like what can be done, it fits in a pallet. The solution fits in 2, 3, 4, 10 pallets in a truck. And this is a good example, actually, because it actually costs less money. When you buy a lot of things, it costs less money. I have soldiers who ask me to give them crutches or wheelchair, and we get them wheelchair from the UK, from France, from Germany, but we spend money to import, like to transport those wheelchair. Like even if it's second-hand, so it's not a problem. A wheelchair, a brand new wheelchair in China costs $30. Here in the store, like in Europe, it costs $100, $150. If you buy at 1,000, you pay them $30. You will tell me like, yeah, but it's just one item, it's just one thing, one piece of equipment. Well, yeah, but after 3 years into the war, if we're able to strike Russian factories, Russian Shaheds factories, I think we should be able to import 10,000 wheelchair, crutches, and to import 10,000 tourniquets on a monthly basis. We volunteers shouldn't have to do this anymore.
I still hope that your platform, when it goes online now, will help people to coordinate more help. And my last question for today would be, what is still your biggest motivation to stay in Ukraine? Because you could have taken now your family abroad to be in secure Europe, but why are you still staying here? What gives you motivation to work every day, to move forward, even it's difficult to work with our government, even it's difficult to motivate now other people?
It's a funny question, because actually I have a very good friend at Platforma Foundation that asks me this question every 6 months. How are you still doing what you're doing, and how you're still motivated? First, I don't think it's I think it's more about personality than morally speaking. Well, first, now I have a daughter here, so morally speaking, I don't really, see myself in 20 years telling my daughter that I was playing video games while there was a war in her country. But then, morally speaking, it's not about. It's about how you feel when you don't do anything. This is what is not comfortable this is how I see things for people like me. So it's not about how hard it is to do things that you think are helpful, but it's very uncomfortable to be a spectator, to look at things without doing anything. It's horrible. I mean, for people like me, it's horrible to see myself not doing anything, and then to answer your question more like pragmatically, like I was selling apartments before the war. There is not many things more stupid than selling an apartment in a city like Paris. It's a very it's a stupid business. This is why I try to tell my team every day. Like in Platforma, I tell my developers every day. 50% of IT people on the planet, of developers, they are building video games, casino online, or even worse things. Guys, we are improving logistics in a country at war. That's like it has to be the most interesting thing you did in your life. Actually, that there is no other application, web app now that if you're in Ukraine, if you're interested, there's nothing more interesting than doing this. I don't see myself living in Europe and not caring about what's going on here, and watching people like just being attacked in their own country without participating. We're not saving the world. We're not heroes. Nobody's a hero here. It's about doing your part. Your tiny part, because you're just a citizen. You're just a one guy. If I be president of a country, like prime minister, I said, there would be another conversation. But I'm a random guy. So the question is like, for a random guy, let's try to do meaningful things and to do our best. And if really there's a limit of what we can do, well, we build an app, or we recruit people, we build a charity organization, and then it gets bigger, and we try to do more things.
I'm very proud of such people like you are living in this country, doing so much for us. So I thank you so much for your time, and we'll put the link to your platform on our channel so that our audience can also join it, and other volunteers, organization, but also our audience abroad can see what Platform is going to be. Thank you, Alex, so much for your time.
Thank you.